We're going to turn our attention for at least the next 30 minutes or so to the city of Nashville and Davidson County at large. We had Ben Cunningham on the show a week or so ago discussing this transit tax, which frankly I've not been able to generate a lot of discussion about, but I do want to generate discussion about it because I think the people of Davidson County need to know what they're expected to vote on come November 5th. Next Wednesday, at 12:30, Freddie O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, will be on, and I expect that, amongst other things, a topic of conversation will be this concept of the transit tax. Toward that end, we have invited Emily Evans on the show with us. She is one of the organizers of the NoTransitTax.com website and the Stop the Transit Tax effort, and she joins us in studio to talk about that effort. Hello, Emily. How are you?
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me.
You're doing a great job. Belle came in right before we did the segment and said, "Emily can't move. You're not allowed to.
I'm afraid to. I'm afraid that
Belle will get on you if you do.
So shock thing.
No, she's fine. I'll get on you. She moves.
Okay.
So thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being in, and thank you for drawing attention to this issue. Tell me a little about your background and why you felt compelled to be a part of this organization.
Okay. My background is I served on the Metro Council for 9 years, beginning in 2006 until 2015. Prior to that, I worked in municipal finance, so I'm a finance professional. My history on the Metro Council is mostly focused on budget and fiscal issues, tax issues. And I have been off the bench really since 2015, working on my career and livelihood. But with this proposal, the sales tax proposal, it was kind of the stick or the straw that broke the camel's back, because I've been watching really for the last 13 years a series of policies that are beneficial to a small group of people and detrimental to the vast majority of the city. That starts with the convention center downtown, which mostly sits empty, and overtaxes the hospitality industry. That goes to the property tax increase, which was a 34% increase in 2020. We closed schools, which is half our budget, for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Shows you how committed we were to that function of government. And then we are now facing a sales tax increase, a 22% increase in the local option, and probably facing another property tax increase next year. And you can only tax the population so much, and they start doing, you look at the gold standard of governance, that's migration. And when you see migration, you need to check it. And our population has flatlined in 2016. We lost population 2020 through 2021. We've not recovered it. And that's not a good sign.
So I hear, Emily, I've been in Nashville since December of 2021.
Okay.
And I see stories regularly about people that are flocking to the greater Nashville area. They're flocking to Middle Tennessee. Nashville, the story I've heard, and maybe it's wrong, is that Nashville gains almost 100 people a day in population.
The important word there is greater Nashville. The jurisdiction of Nashville and Davidson County, it's 530 square miles, has lost population. Now, the region has gained population, and a lot of that has to do with lower taxes. The property tax in Davidson County, for example, what the average person pays is about twice what Williamson County pays, which is that's a different sort of pattern than we've had previously.
So if you subtract Sumner and Wilson and Williamson, et cetera, then you'll get to that
you'll get to that number.
Decrease.
Yeah, but we year over year, 2021, we lost 1.8% of our population.
It just occurs to me, and it's kind of an offshoot from the subject that we're talking about, but if you served in, you said 09 to 15?
06 to 15.
06 to 15. So you were in the thick of the Music City Center debate, right?
Yes, I was one of 9 votes against it and led the opposition against it.
And now I would expect that. Were you and Freddie on the opposite sides of that?
At the time, Freddie was not in the council.
He was not. Okay.
He had a local radio program on the Vanderbilt radio station. And at the time, I thought was very sort of biased against it. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
What do you think has changed in his mindset, or maybe nothing has changed? I mean, what do you think goes into the mindset of this 0.25% sales tax increase for the purpose of, and I can't really get my arms around exactly what we're getting out of our money, except it's just a sales tax increase?
You're not alone. The sales tax, here's what you're getting. You're getting a 0.5 cent increase in the local option sales tax. You're getting that. Now, the question is, what are you getting for that? Okay. Mm-hmm. And the answer is you don't know. The administration has said, well, we'll have sidewalks, but they're only going to really relate to transit, and we're going to build 84 miles of sidewalks. That's about 5 miles a year. That's the same as what we're doing right now mm-hmm. without a sales tax increase. You might get better signalization. We bought the software for that in 2012. We've had some expertise issues. We've had some hardware issues, but we started down that road a while ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then the last piece of it is, do you get bus service? The buses serve less than 2% of the population. Less than 10,000 people rely on it to get to work every day. And so
say that again, Emily.
About about less than 2% of the Nashville population uses the Metro bus.
That equates to, you said 10,000 people?
Of that amount, less than 10,000 people rely on it for work, to get to work.
I've long said, I understand the necessity for larger cities to have some form of mass transit. I get it. And would you agree with that?
I would agree with it. I would just add that when you're looking at cities that developed in the mid to late 20th century, a period of prosperity unknown in human history, mm-hmm. It's easy to see why it didn't happen, because mass transit is an economic decision.
Well, that leads me to my broader point that while I understand why you would want to serve the least of these within a broader community, nobody takes the bus because they want to.
Yeah, I was down.
Nobody takes the bus because they want to.
I was at a meeting in Antioch, and I was talking to this woman, and she's asking me questions, and I said, "Well, tell me, do you take the bus?" And she says, "No." And I said, "Okay, why don't you take the bus?" And she said, "Because I don't have to."
That's exactly right.
So that's a man on the street. Taking mass transit economic decision, and I think forcing people into fixed routes. Okay, that's what bus lines are: fixed routes on a fixed timetable. Really means that people who depend on it are going to have to find work on that bus line. They're not going to look for the best job for them. They're going to look for the job on the bus line, mm-hmm. which is, categorically unjust in my opinion.
So, just trying to dive a little bit deeper, and so we're talking. The suggestion is that we'll get additional sidewalks, mm-hmm. sidewalks that are already being built.
Correct.
We'll get bike lanes that I feel like already exist, and we will get additional or better bus service.
That is about correct, yes.
And that's going to be $6.9 billion
over 15 years,
yeah. Is it just as easy as suggesting that they're trying to sell an additional sales tax to the people of Davidson County, and they're doing it through this transit proposal because they think that's the best way to do it?
That's the conclusion you have to draw. This is really a request for $150 million annually from the taxpayers through a highly regressive tax. Sales taxes are not what you want to use, mm-hmm. Unless you absolutely have to. And that $150 million can, augment the public works budget. And that means that, you can use that money for even something else. So it's a tax increase. And can we use the figure, and I know when I was speaking with Ben Cunningham on this issue, we were using the figure $6.9 billion, but they won't give you that figure, right? No.
The proponents of the proposal are very squishy about what the total cost of the actual projects that they're proposing will be.
Yeah, when you buy a car or a house, there's this truth in lending number. It's at the bottom of the page, and it adds up all the payments you make, including interest. The truth in lending number for this project is $6.9 billion. That includes the principal, that includes the interest.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me the and I don't want to cast aspersions. He'll be here next week. He can defend himself. But Freddie O'Connell, he's the guy that's trying to figure out what I'm able to pay every month, right? If we use that car analogy, when you go in a car lot, they're like, well, what are you looking to spend a month?
Right.
I'm like, no. Tell me what the car costs. No. Well, what are you looking to spend? Right? Is the difference?
That's a good way to look at it. And Mayor O'Connell, when someone asked, why don't you tell people it's $6.9 billion? He said, well, we want to keep it simple. And I'm like, well, we're not stupid. You can figure these things out.
If this is specific, if this tax increase is specific to these projects, Emily, then obviously it has an expiration, right? It has a sunset, right?
Well, it has the tax will be in place as long as the bonds are outstanding. I spent a very long time in municipal finance, and I can tell you there are many ways to keep the bonds from being retired through extensions, refinancings, new issuance, et cetera. So you don't really know when the tax will go away.
The only way that government, if it initiates tax, it's been my experience in my lifetime of doing this, the only way that government does that is through fear of loss of power and control or fear of absolute revolt based on the population's reaction to it. In other words, you have to fight like hell to get these taxes gone once they are in place.
That's been my experience as well.
Well, if anybody wants to call on this, and I've obviously got a couple of them lining up, we're talking with Emily Evans. Is it notransittax.com? Is that right?
Notransittax.com is the website. You can get make a donation, and you can order a yard sign there.
Well, we'll be back with a few of your questions in just a moment with Emily on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Our guest is Emily Evans. She's with NoTransitTax.com, an organization that has mounted a defense against the idea of increasing our sales tax. I mean, I think I said it wrong. I said it was 0.25. Did you say it was a half a?
It's a half a penny. So you go from 2 1/4 local option sales tax to 2 3/4.
Okay, so it's half.
So the total rate would be 9 3/4. Yeah.
All right, very good. We've got a number of folks that want to ask you questions, Emily, and she is our expert on this subject. Tony is in Nashville with a thought on the transit tax. Tony, what's on your mind?
Yes, when you talked about the mass transit and the sidewalks, they was double dipping. Is because property tax is supposed to be taking care of sidewalks. But when we go out and build a house, they made us build sidewalks in front of that frontage of the house, in which the property tax is supposed to be taken care of. So quite naturally, that cost wasn't going to be with the contractor. That was going to be turned over to put on the owner. And as far as the mass transit is concerned, the problem that I had with mass transit is that in the city that I've been in, none of these things let off in the neighborhoods close to your house. At least bus lines, they distribute people and pick up people in neighborhoods, but that don't happen with them. Now, I think the Court of Appeals overturned the sidewalk thing is because not only was people paying high property taxes, they was also paying to have the sidewalks built twice. I get off and listen.
Tony, thank you for the call. Any thoughts on that, Emily? Sidewalk.
Well, he's right.
Yeah.
You pay property taxes. That's supposed to deliver sidewalks. We asked developers, he's referring to a home build, but we asked developers to put sidewalks in front of their property or to pay into a sidewalk fund. So we've already really taken care of this, and it's being dangled in this proposal just to make people vote for it. It's pretty cynical. So
the half cent will be, it'll generate about $150 million a year. You said
I got 138, and the mayor's office says 150, so not a big difference, but around that. And
in your reading of the proposal, would that money have to be specific? I mean, so does it specifically get directed to these projects, or how does that work?
The mechanics of it would be this. that money would go, it would be collected and it would go into a fund that would comply with something called the Improve Act, which is a state legislation. And then those projects would be entered into something called the capital improvement budget that the Metro Council votes on every year. And once they are included in the capital improvement project, then the executive branch, the mayor and the department would decide which projects it would actually execute on. So the sidewalks, you might want a sidewalk on your street, but if it doesn't meet the requirements of the Improve Act, that can't happen, which means it needs to be adjacent to mass transit.
You might still get a sidewalk on your street, but just not through
the Improve Act, not through a higher sales tax. And I think people are being misled into thinking, well, we're going to have this great sidewalk program. First of all, it's not a great program. 86 miles of additional sidewalk is basically what we're doing right now without raising your sales tax. And second of all, it's confined by what the Improve Act requires.
Dale is in Lebanon with a thought on the transit tax. Dale, good afternoon.
Yeah, that's Daryl.
Oh, pardon me, Daryl. My apologies.
Yeah. I've been saying since the 1980s, I've never heard any council members, no mayors talk about this. The two major chokeholds of traffic in Nashville are Furnace Street and the 2440. Why can't they do away with those bridges or raise them up or lower them? That would get rid of a lot of the traffic problems. $6.8 billion, that would probably do both bridges. I don't understand why they dance around the problem.
Thank you, Daryl, for the call. Emily?
Well, he's bringing up a really great point, which is that the traffic problems in Nashville are, as he pointed out, around the interstate. And that's not part of this plan. Okay. Number one. Two, that requires an extensive amount of regional cooperation, with the mayor and the General Assembly and the governor's office. And really, if you look at just the press accounts of the Metro Council and the mayor, they spend a lot of time calling the state legislature and the governors pretty nasty names, which does not make for a cooperative environment.
I mean, do you believe that we could manage doing whatever worthwhile project might be discussed in the current budget, within the current budget?
Oh yeah, I mean you would have to make choices. Okay, that's what budgets are. They're a series of choices. You would have to make those choices, and you would have to set priorities and decide what is most important. And that's usually what makes your people happy. If you're a council person or a mayor, I would suspect that more buses is not going to make anybody particularly happy, and it may make them very unhappy. But
what do you? I'm trying to figure out in the minute or two that we have left, Emily. I'm trying to figure out what the ultimate goal is. I have to feel like that it's more than just increased bus service.
It's really about housing.
Tell me how.
The federal government has implemented a policy to link your zoning and land use laws locally to transportation funding. And it just Google land use and transit, and you'll see articles from across the country. And the reason for this is that the administration firmly believes that if we get rid of zoning law, then we'll have more houses. This is an absolutely nonsense argument, but this is what they believe. And so they're promoting this transit proposal, thinking, all right, well, this will encourage housing, more houses, because this is what the White House said is going to happen. And that's there's no basis for that. So this is really an affordable housing project. And I think a lot of people are being misled by that in addition to the sidewalks. Real quick question for Freddie for next week. I'll ask it. Well, you should ask him about the 6.9
I will.
Versus the 3.2.
I will.
And I would ask him, about 84 miles of sidewalks.
Isn't that what we're doing now?
It's what we're doing now, yeah.
Emily, thank you so much for your time. NoTransitTax.com is the website? NoTransitTax.com. And if I could just ask anybody who's hearing this, when you go to vote on November the 5th, please go all the way down the ballot and vote against the transit tax. Emily, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
There's Emily Evans.